drop right into it and go chronologically, or as far as I want. Okay. Anyways, gonna start. Gonna start with this thing. This would be Battleship, the board game. I fucked up, and when I made this world, it was before Caves and Cliffs. So now I can go through and build under the bedrock of this world, as seen over there. But I couldn't when I started, so I had to cut it off here at 7 by 10. So that's why the battleship looks so fucky wucky and skinnier than it should. But the way this works is using these things that I call torch towers to turn off and on these lights, which if this torch is off, this torch is on. But if you shut that torch off or turn this torch on, shuts this one off. So if you make a tower out of these, you get these, which just alternates them. And when you flick a switch, it flips them. Just burnt. An issue I ran into with this one was these. I needed the levers to go down horizontally, but I was a bit of an idiot. This was like 4 or 5 years ago that I built this. 4 years ago. So I didn't think about pistons and all that. But this works, sending a glass signal down, or a redstone signal down glass. That works because glass functions funny and will send a signal staircasing through the corners like this. And if I place this guy, he's connected there too. So in a way, it sends a signal straight up and down, just requires diagonals. So that made it a little bit bigger than I wanted, but that was fine. I had infinite space on either side of these. But yeah, so that's the the fucking black stained glass is the ships, and the X was miss, the H was hit. So you'd flick a switch, they'd tell you, and you'd place the banner. So that's it for the first edition of Battleship. I have made technically 2 other versions, one of which I had to destroy because it was too laggy. And yeah, they get smaller from here. Right over here is the second one. A lot smaller. Used smaller these and more compact lever placement. This one works by the first layer works differently than the others. So when you flick this switch on, it powers this torch, shutting off this. This torch shuts off that torch, so when you turn it turns on this torch, which turns on the lamp. Torch on, shutting off this torch, turning on this one. It's just a row of that. And then the next layer right behind it works by piston, signal, piston back up, powering lantern with redstone block. And just the further back you go, the more slime blocks they add. And same with the part on the redstone. The further back you go, the more slime blocks you add. I actually built this in survival a few years ago. Took a while. That is the second version of Battleship. Shrunk, smaller, and nicer. Easier to build. Like that one I would never dream of building in survival. This one I did. And then the smaller versions of Battleship would require sending signals straight up and down, side by side, so you can't use slime or honey. Because if you use slime or honey, these would get caught on each other. The redstone blocks would. So you have 2 options, one of which only got recently because of the copper bulb. The first option I found was just doing this, piston towers. But that was really laggy. The second option I found was this, a copper bulb. observer copper bulb chain. And this would work going up too. And yeah, you would just do that fucking 100 times, 200 times. Going up, like one into lamps, one from buttons. So you'd push a button, it'd send the signal down, copper bulb would catch it, send the signal all the way over. Copper bulb would catch it, or bell or whatever would catch it, and it'd send the signal strength up. You'd probably use copper bulbs for the up part. And then when you wanted to undo your guess, you'd just push the button. Like you'd use a copper bulb here. Yeah. Off this. This is a chiseled bookshelf thing I made so that when you want, it'll only work if you have a signal strength of, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4. So chiseled bookshelves were interesting to me because I wanted them to do a specific thing. If you don't have a strong enough one, then it won't send the signal through, and if you have too strong of a one, it'll remove this block, stopping the signal from going through. So that's what this version is. It's stopping, like this is just you interact with it and it'll forever be on, yada yada. And if you interact with one other, it shuts it off. See? So that's how that one works. But what this one is it makes it function a lot more like those out of like TV shows and movies. So you need to interact with book 3 multiple times to get the effect you want. And it's only on a pulse. So this turns a bookshelf into a button. So I used too strong of a signal. It pulled this back, which pulled this guy back, which made it bad. This functions primarily like that because if these are all on, aka you use the right one, it puts these in place, and then this clock makes it so the observer timing goes slow enough that if you, yeah. I guess I could replace you with a copper bulb to actually show it now better. So I did the correct one so it didn't move anything. Anyways, so that's the bookshelves. That's all the small little random things I made. And I guess this door works too. This door would fit in that category there. You'd have blocks here. It's not the greatest, but it works. This would be in like the corner of the house. So the rest of the house would be that way. Anyways, I can go on to our village ideas. So this was a friend's villager idea. To keep villagers just up and out of the way and not wandering still. So when the villager is up top, this torch is on, keeping this torch off and powering this powered rail. And when you flip it by flicking this lever, is it broken? Oh, right. This is to send the villager back up no matter what. Anyways, when you flip it, the torch shuts off, turning that torch on, which powers that rail, shutting that rail off. So if I flick this guy, sends it back up, but it's not a finished design, so it goes up and down. What you need to do is shut this guy off, and then torch turns back on, turning on this powered rail, shutting off that one, so the minecart stays up there. And yeah, that's the unfinished version. Over here is the finished version. You got librarians up here. If I want Silk Touch specifically, I call him down, brings him down. We speak to him. The torch got flipped. We simplified the redstone for it. And yeah, if I want to send Silk Touch back up, I flick that. Does all that, sends them up here. You can do that for everyone. Or what else we designed for this is we need all the armor enchantments. We flick these guys. All of the helmet enchantments come down. See? And that's his village design. He's only made the one iteration, sends them back up. He's only made the one iteration. I have made several. This was my very first one. This functions by using a mechanic that allows you to flip the orientation of a rail just simply by putting a torch underneath it. This is its base state, I believe. Yeah, base state. And if you place a torch under it, it flips, and then if you shut the torch off, it goes back to base. So I did that at every intersection. So intersection here, if the pig wants to go, you need to turn on this or shut off this torch. Boom. And then we'll just follow the path of the pig. So if pig wants to go, he needs to shut off this torch, which requires flipping this rail, or which would flip this rail. Then he'd go over. He doesn't need to flip this one because he's already heading this way. So he'd go over, follow this path. He does need to flip this one. So he'd have to be connected to this torch. He'd flip it. He'd head on his merry way. Then he needs to flip this torch. So he needs to be connected to this one. So he'd flip it. Then he'd come up here. And theoretically, these would all be villagers. So you'd trade with them, and then you'd flick this lever, which... Oh. Wait. I already had it on. Anyways, so he'd get up here, you'd trade with him, you'd flick this lever, turning on this torch, sending him down, and this lever serves a secondary purpose because, where's that guy? Okay, looks like I'm missing someone. I'm missing the person who's supposed to be in the 5th spot. Anyways, so the issue with this is if pig wants to get back here safely, then he needs to not have this powered rail on when he gets here, but he can't have the whole system shut off, because if the whole system's shut off, then he'll probably wind up in the sheep's thing. So my solution to that was when you flick that lever, it shuts off all the powered rails by force. So this middle lever makes it so that no matter what, if it's on, you can flick as many of these levers as you want. This is a very breakable design, as foretold by the fact there's a guy missing and he's probably in someone else's spot. I ran out of passive mobs over here. So that's how this one works. Very annoying. I did not do the greatest at the redstone, as you can see, because everyone, like from the llama to the left, needs to be connected to this singular torch. Everyone from the sheep to the left needs to be connected to this torch, and then both the cow and chicken need connected to this one, and then the sheep needs connected, or the chicken needs connected to this one. The further left you go, the less things you have to turn. So like the chicken needs to turn, or the further left you go, the more you need to turn, the more rails you need swapped. So the chicken has the most at 1, 2, 3, 4. He has 4 things to swap. But because of that, I had to connect like 8 guys to this one torch, which got really annoying and confusing. So the redstone got very messy on this one. And then I shrunk it down a little bit by using observers, so I didn't have to have the middle redstone. I didn't have to have this middle lever exist to shut off all of those. I just used a observer to turn off and on the powered rails, so you push whoever you need and it hits the button and boom. I also simplified it so that everyone would guaranteed only need 1 or 2. So it was just simpler and still pretty easy to fuck up, but not like if you were smart, you wouldn't. So like this guy, Riptide, just needs to flick this guy and then this guy, and he just follows the path all the way up, and you push the button. This still has the issue of you can't, hold on, where's Riptide's thing? Riptide, what? See, super easy to still mess up because I somehow have a Riptide guy all the way over here. I have my signs messed up. That's annoying. Anyways, if I want that guy, I just flick this and it rings his bell, heads on up, and you trade with him. You don't need him anymore. You send him back. You unflick his lever. The reason why that works and the observer doesn't go off twice is because of the bell. So when you ring a bell in front of an observer, the observer recognizes it. So when you power a bell, something happens, but when you depower a bell, nothing happens. So that's how that works. And yeah, I do the same thing all the way over here. Just this guy doesn't need a bell or a torch in front of him because, yeah, the rail does need to be this squiggly because if it's not, then like Aqua Affinity wouldn't have a thing to be turned to. You need to have it this way, otherwise it just thinks you want a straight line track. That's it for this design. And then this is the third and final design rail system, which is a lot simpler and actually a lot harder to fuck up. So this one, same concept as the other ones. I stole the rail design from this guy. So squiggly rails. The biggest difference that makes this guy simpler and easier to use and less likely to break and get your spots mixed up is the fact that these rails won't actually undo until you send this T flip-flop is activated, which originally when I made this was right before the copper bulb came out. So this was my T flip-flop, which made it so that fucking, I don't even need to describe this anymore. Anyways, signal would come down, it'd be a pulse, allowing a thing to swap out of these blocks. So this powered rail would flop over here, shutting this off, turning this torch off, or turning this torch on, turning this torch off, flipping this rail. Now it's just fucking cart goes over, copper bulb, sends signal into torch, torch flips rail over. So all you'd do is you'd push send sand, it'd send the signal down, bring you the sand, you'd place all your sand in, you'd push it, it'd go back, flip everything over, and then this was less of a village like the other two and more of a storage system, so it'd store all your sand. If you wanted to retrieve your sand, you'd click return sand, and it'd do the same thing down there as it did up here. It's T flip-flop, all except these guys hit another T flip-flop right here, which flips this guy. So you'd then click this guy after you grabbed the sand you needed, you'd go back, that guy's now here, and now he's all the way set back up. Minimal inputs compared to the other ones, and you don't have to worry about, like, with this guy, if you sent Unbreaking up last, and you just sent him back and you needed Fire Aspect, you'd run the risk of accidentally sending Fire Aspect back to Unbreaking spot. That most likely won't happen here as long as you send your one guy back and give like 10 seconds. So that's the 3 villages, and that's this village done. So this is tic-tac-toe. I think this one's O's. Oh, X. O. Just super simple. I need a ender pearl. So in order to show it, we'll show O's. So for O's, right here, this O, the signal comes in, powers this block, this repeater steals it, this torch gets shut off by that powered block, then this repeater sends a signal into this entire circle that powers all of these repeaters. And the corners are powered by these torch towers. So these torch towers go all the way up. All the way up. Right. So O is currently on, so this torch would normally be on, but it goes all the way up until you get here where it activates the pistons. I use pistons here instead of more torches because a torch will power multiple lamps. So the torch tower starts in here, goes all the way up, and lets you have these guys. And yeah, and then the X's, this is what the O's look like off, by the way. So these torches are on, off, da 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 da. So the X's were a little bit more difficult because I think I did O's first. Anyways, so the X would go all the way down, activate a torch tower that went all the way up, torch tower goes up until you get in here where the torch tower leads to this center block, shutting like this torch on and off, and powering this block, which sends a signal through here into this block, sending a signal both ways, which gives you shutting off all of these. So this torch, like that torch goes there, powers that block, this block, into this block, leading a signal to go all the way around to here, and it does that on either side. And these two, those two, and this dust, so that dust and that dust over there power off these four, and this dust powers off these two guys, similar to how these guys are powered off by these two blocks. This repeater powers this block, letting that repeater go into those guys. So just torch towers and repeater nonsense for bingo. And yeah, I just do that 9 times. The hardest part about this was the repetition. And yeah, you can play tic-tac-toe. And technically, this also functions as tic-tac-toe. So, this is a newer edition. This is rock, paper, scissors. You stand here. If this person picks scissors, he won. But if this guy picked rock, it would shut his off and turn this on. If you both picked rock, then it would be a tie. But if this guy picked paper, then it would shut that off and turn that on. Basically all this is, it's a mess because I did this in like an hour or two. But when you turn on a thing like rock, this side's rock is set to shut off this other side's scissors. So this side, like if you guess scissors, it would normally go down and turn on this piston, which would connect to your side's winning redstone. But because this side's rock is on, it shuts off X's ability. And the paper does the same thing for the rock over here. So if I shut this guy off, turn on this guy's paper, it sends paper and then a shut off signal straight to this side's rock winning redstone. So this was rock, but rock can't power its own piston right here because paper is shutting it off. And it's just like that for all of them. As I said, I did this very quick. I'm happy with how it turned out, but it can be better. And this is an auto crafter I recently made. We'll just go through all 4 auto crafter things. This is a very basic one. When this guy fills up with, I don't fucking know, we'll just grab a bunch of redstone. So when you put 9 pieces of redstone in here. It sends this comparator is able to tell that that guy's full, which beats this guy's fullness level, sending the 1 signal strength needed, which the comparator powers this block powers the redstone powers that block, the repeater powers that block, activating the crafter, which crafts it, emptying it effectively, giving you the redstone block we made. That's how this, that's just a super simple base version. That can craft technically whatever you want, but requires the manual input and direct access to the crafter. This is a bit more automated. If you put, I guess I had gold in there, so if we put a stack of gold in here, it starts loading it into the crafter fills up with gold. This beats out this crafter's 8 signal strength, giving a pulse signal all the way over, and just crafts a gold block. This kind of crafter only works with the same object. If you have a 9-block crafting recipe, like ore blocks, nuggets, yeah, that's how this one would work. This is a 2-item crafter that I stole from someone and slightly modified. If you have a hopper that is full, then it will send these 2 things go on strength. This is currently out of paper by 1. You need to have a full hopper, so this only works really good in farms. But when it's fully working, both of these comparators go off at the same time, shutting these torches off, which lets the signal go through, and when this guy hits that, it powers both the comparators, shutting them off, turning the torches on, and just shutting this off. It's a little hard to explain how exactly it works, so here's it actually in progress. So you have it going. It's actually not going to go right now because I have it set so that when this chest is full, it shuts the entire machine off so that you don't overcraft. But if I was to do that, it starts crafting because these guys shut off, these guys turn on, these torches shut off, the signal goes all the way through, turning everything back on. And yeah, it just goes until you either run out of materials, or in this version of it, until you fill up your chest. That's just test. This is a 9-item crafter I made. I tried copying a lot of other crafters, but I'm on Bedrock, if you couldn't tell. And this crafter gave me a lot of issue because normally you use minecarts and just spinning things into hoppers. My issue is, for some reason, Bedrock hoppers decide they don't want to play by the rules and will just say fuck you. So I made this machine contraption. Each one of these represents the corresponding spot. This dispenser will reach the crafter down here first, this crafter first. So you need it to be, you need it to be in that order. Like the first spot will always be the first spot open, so it normally goes in this pattern, left to right. So ours is right to left up here. This is really good because it will detect whether or not your thing is full. If this detects something, this torch is shut off. And if all of these torches are off, it allows this piston to go into place, which allows for the cycle to continue. So I guess the example I can give is I can take a stack of gold bars. So what we'll do is we don't need these guys for what I'm about to craft. And we want to just make one thing. So we only need this guy, and all these torches are off because I flicked these levers, basically saying, hey, I'm artificially saying these dispensers are all full, which these hoppers just go into these dispensers. These hoppers don't mean anything. So when this is all full, this torch is now the only one on. So if I was to put something into this chest, or if I was to put something into this, it would be saying it's full. This torch would shut off, which would turn on this torch, which would turn this on. And whenever this guy gets full, it sends a signal out to this bell. This bell sends a signal up the observers. The observers send a thing through here, which makes the pistons go off in this specific order so that it loads properly. Oh, hey, Wyatt.
Hello.
I'm going to finish the tour of big things. So
Okay.
I didn't finish the world. Anyways, so these pistons go off in that specific order. All of these droppers go off in that specific order, loading it in that specific order. And then sends the signal strength back up and rinse and repeat. That's how the crafting part of it works. And then if you flick this lever, it just fills it. It just empties all of your extra into here, so you can recollect it. So to show it, we put that in, and now all of this is on, which this light here is to let you know it's full. Then we're ready, so we push start, sends the signal strength through, sends our gold through, and yeah, it'll just be that the entire time. Every time we need gold nuggets, and right now that's all we're making is gold nuggets. And I'm done, so I will, well, not done, but if we were to say run out, well, I fucked it up. Anyways, so we ran out of the rest of the thing. Now we can push this, because we had 1 gold left. Oh, right. Right. So the issue right now is that all of them are saying they're full. We just needed it to say it was full. You're not supposed to use this for one item crafting recipes. Anyways, so that's how this crafter works. It's a bit of a mess. I made it myself. This is bingo. You push this button and it shows you, you give it a minute for the paper to go. We got N16. And then to reset it, you'd push this button, shutting that guy off. Then you'd push this button, shutting that guy off. And then this button, shutting that guy off. And the way this works is, I'll show you the 7-segment display. It uses a thing called a 7-segment display. It's what a lot of like alarm clocks use, or digital alarm clocks use. You click the 1, it lights up only those segments. A segment is these 3, this middle, these 3, this top, bottom, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each line is its own little segment. So 1 segment, 2 segment, 3 segment. Yeah. It uses 5 of the 7 segments. And yeah, the way this 7-segment display is very ugly. Well, all of them are very ugly redstone wise. But basically you just connect the lines. Like I know these 2 get connected to the most because it's the most used line. Because these 2 repeater chains lead to this 1 being turned on. Bop, bop. So the way I just used the redstone was a lot of things come and connect back to number 1. Like the number's at 4. 4 requires a number 1. So even though I shut off one, it still turned on because I needed this entire strip. And I just do that over here a bunch. Like this white wool was used to signify number 1. So I just made everything connect back to the number 1 spot because it was easier. And the rest, like I do that for both these two. These two are the exact same. This was for the BIN and GO. B just takes away those 2 spots and lights up the rest. I just lights up these guys. And then N, G, and O just do its own thing. And, you know, that's the BINGO. The way this normally works is when you push the button, the way you get the random numbers is you push the button, sends the thing over here. These droppers will deposit a slip into this item sorter. The item sorter will register, like, so this is the item sorter. It only accepts papers named 1. So it sends the paper through, and if paper 1 comes through, it activates this comparator, which activates the old T flip-flop. This could be replaced with a copper bulb. This whole contraption right here could be replaced with a copper bulb, but then it basically acts as a lever. That pulse signal of sending a paper through would act as a lever and turn on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And I do that the entire time. And when a paper gets to the bottom of its item sorter, it comes back through. This redstone clock just sends it all the way back up until you get right here, where it's waiting. This guy is constantly activating as well, this dropper, but it's just waiting on this guy to empty. So, yep. And I do that over here too, same setup, just had to point it that way because too much. And then same setup here. And then these are just buttons that go into the T flip-flops to act as a thing, because if you push a button, it does the thing it's supposed to. It acts like a T flip-flop, so it shuts it off and on. So yeah, that's how bingo works. These are the redstone doors. This was the first one I made. It's a door called a Jeb door. Do I have a simpler Jeb door? Okay, this is the simplest Jeb door. It's normally 2x4. It's normally just this half. So this would be against the wall you want it, or whatever wall that is at least 2 blocks tall. So, or at least 3 blocks tall. So this would be what the wall normally looks like. This is what it would normally look like. And whenever you flick the lever, or however you activate it, it opens from inside the wall. That's called a Jeb door. I needed one that was 2x3 for a horse. So I couldn't find one because Jeb doors are normally 2x2, but I made a 2x3 Jeb door. And it works by, so I'm noticing. So these pistons up here push redstone blocks to the top 2 pistons of our doors. This is actually just a Jeb door, basically, for the middle. And yeah, so when I shut the system off, these 2 guys get pushed there. And then when I shut it off, these guys get pulled back and pulled off to the side. These 2 get pulled into the floor. This is the Jeb door, so these guys all get powered and shut off at the same time. So all of these pistons need to pull back first, and then these pistons need to shut off. So when doing it, these pistons and, okay, so the order it goes is these 2 pistons and these 2 pistons need to shut off first. these two pistons, shut off these two pistons, which allows them to be moved and these guys to come back. These two pistons shutting off allows these two pistons to be pulled back, allowing this whole wall would get pulled back. And then when these are pulled back, there's also torches underneath that power these guys. So when it turns on, those guys move first. Those top two, like these two, and these two move first to get into place because they're also the first that need to shut off. So up. Then everything else just pushes into the way to get powered and shut off. And all of it pushes forward. So that's a fully gem door. This is another horse door, as I like to call them, but this one requires a roof right here and the floor right there. That can be smacked into any wall right there, like that. But this requires the roof to be here and this to be here. This is the gem mechanic that these two use. Anyways, so these two get shut off, allowing these guys to move. These guys just push blocks up and down, but these guys shut power and deactivate these pistons. When you pull them down, they're flush with the floor. So when these two pistons shut off, these two blocks get pulled back, and then these pistons can pull this piston and block to make the corridor. So, and when turned on, they just form the wall. That's the two horse doors I've made. This is a flush gem door on either side. So no matter which side you go on, when the door is closed, it forms a wall. It's just two gem doors placed together. This is a corner gem door, so it forms a corner right here, and then when you flick this, it just pulls the thing back, revealing a hallway in the corner. I think that's pretty cool. Works just the same as the other gem doors. These four pistons are waiting for these two pistons to be deactivated. So when you deactivate these two pistons, you can actually pull these pistons. Those two sticky pistons right there are waiting for these two blocks. So when you shut it off, yep, dun. And that's how the corner gem door works. This is a door that uses double piston extenders. Normally it is super easy to find one on Bedrock that goes up and down. So what needs to happen, so I just turned it on. So it sends a signal through this, which powers this block, which powers this piston when it's right here. This will also shut the piston off immediately. So when I shut it off, it just pulls this guy first, and then this block comes down one. And then when powered on, so this turns on, which originally powers nothing, until this signal turns on, which turns this on, like this repeater on. The repeater powers this piston, which pushes this piston up, which is touching this block now, which is powered by this redstone, so it's pushed up, so this block gets all the way up here. Then when you shut it off, this block shuts off, shutting that piston off, bringing the block down one. Then this shuts off, shutting these two off, which this piston pulls this piston back down, but leaves the block up here as you saw. But the observer then ticks, turning this guy back on, which goes and grabs the piston, or the other block. So it comes down, and then da. Now, I had to flip this to make a down version, because it was very annoying, and I could not find one online. So what happens is, the first one to get powered needs to be this guy. So signal strength goes over the piston goes up. Now this piston is on, sends a signal down this way. This line gets activated, sending a signal here. Now when I flick this signal gets shut off, which shuts the piston when it's right there off. And then this piston pulls up, or then this piston shuts off. Then this piston pulls up and sends a signal into this guy. Or this piston pulls this guy up, leaving this guy down there. And then the observer realizes the piston shut off, sends a signal, and does all that. probably could describe all of that better. But that is all of the doors, and these two are just more testing. Like this is to test, and so that whenever anything is in this bottom dispenser or dropper, it sends all the way back up and places it in the chest. And this up here is so that when you push a button, it will give you a specific amount of carrots. That's to load it. You push the button, and it should give me, I think, 7 carrots? Yeah, 7. Every time you push the button, it gives 7. And then the last thing on big things is not redstone related. It is these two giant pictures. The one on the left is Coco. The one on the right is Bubbles. They are cats, or cat and dog, that have passed away, and these were just giant memorials I built. The cat took me a month, 10 layers a day, at 250 some layers, I think. Roughly 260 some layers. 10 layers a day at 2 hours a day. He was a lot simpler and a lot skinnier. Coco took me also a month, but at 4 hours a day for 10 layers. So I did 10 layers a day for both. Both took roughly a month, but Coco took twice as long. So technically they were supposed to be the same height, but I didn't feel like finishing that much of nonsense for Coco. So that's the two big pictures. I used a website to convert images into Minecraft blocks. It's very outdated, but I still use it to this day. I have a big project planned that I do hope to eventually get to. And yeah, I'll leave a link to that website in the description because it's a goated website and more people should use it. But yeah, that's basically all of the things I actually care to show that isn't just random test, because I do have quite a few tests. And yeah, that's all the things on big things. I'm gonna end stream.